Hey. Oof. Finally. Okay. So what's happened is I've published the weekly outlook for you guys. For some reason, the audio's cut out when I've got to USDCAD, which is what we'll be covering first. So I've come back to my desk because I've been out for the last few hours. Decided to, try play around with it. For some reason, the audio's just cut off. I'm not sure why it's not worked. I've then re-recorded the weekly outlook. Recorded it, sat here for about 13 minutes on my re-record. Press stop. All of it has not recorded again, or rather the audio is not recorded. I'm not sure what's happening. And now finally, I really hope the audio is working right now. I tested it 3 times before starting this video, but we'll get into it, right? So quick recap, you guys will know because you're watching this through anyways, right? DXY bearish, essentially we want a continuation. And what we spoke about is that we're in a position on UCAD. We've been looking for a position on USDCHF, and that's all that's on the table right now at the moment for us, right? Or at least what we're considering. So let's get straight into it. Now, USDCAD, and guys, I may talk a bit fast. I've been through all of these pairs that you're seeing about 4 times today now. So if I miss anything, if there's any questions, just please make sure you leave them at the end or leave them in the comments and I'll make sure I get back to everyone. So cool, let's get into it. USDCAD, we've been using this range over here. You guys can see very clearly marked. Weekly time frame, we had this big weekly OTE, big wick away from the premium and this weekly fair value gap, right? Over here, and then what's happened is we've essentially pushed lower. The next week has expanded a little, not much. Then last week has essentially come and just been a straight move back up into the premium. Now the expectation for this week is, right, that price will sweep this previous weekly high. We are in the premium, and from here we will move away. Now, why are we still confident? Because we have CPI coming up for the CAD on the Tuesday, right? And we need inflation to come in hot. Right now, logically, if we look at the sort of technical aspect, we're sitting in a premium. We have reason to believe the DXY is bearish. All we need is the sentiment on the CAD to be a little hot, and price here on a lagging pair could really catch up for us. Therefore, the position that we're in, we will continue to hold for the time being. Past that, you guys may be wondering, why did we enter in a discount, right? The thing is, on a higher time frame, right, what we're seeing is we have this range. Price made that first retracement, shallow retracement to the equilibrium. Once this moved away, we were happy to hit it. Now, the big reason is DXY started moving away. DXY went ahead and built a new range, right? And we expected that USDCAD will follow. It did not follow, right? Which is fine. It's a lagging pair. It happens. Sometimes you pick the wrong pair. And what's happened from there is DXY retraced a bit and USDCAD retraced a bit harder than the DXY has, right? Now, what we do have on our hands that I like is that I see this all as an accumulation. We have accumulation and manipulation into the premium, and we've left this very nice swing low here. What I would like to see, as we mentioned, is a run above the previous weekly high and potentially a 4-hour market structure shift, but then running this weekly or rather 4-hour low, and then of course from there continuation to the lows. And the reason we were happy to hit it from the discount as well, right, especially after realizing it is essentially a discount entry, is that we have very big targets to play with. We've got these triple relative equal lows, this mini trend line, and of course you have the big market Excel model target here. So if this really is a top from the weekly OTE, which is what we're expecting, and price does run down, we have very big targets to play with, and regardless, there's still only 1% on the line, right? So it's not the end of the world to us because we weren't really looking to take profit at these lows anyways. Cool. USDCHF. Now, sorry, been too many times this year. I don't know what's going on. So cool. You guys can see we had a weekly range from this high to this low, but price has given us a big wick hitting this weekly order block, but nothing too crazy in terms of move away. We did move away. The following week didn't give much expansion, and last week ran previous weekly high and went back in the range, right? Ran both ends or almost ran the low. Now, the expectation is for a continuation lower. It's definitely not retraced as hard as the USD-CAD, and if the dollar can give us a kicker or something, potentially with the tariff policy with the Swiss franc or the Switzerland government can come in play and there's changes to favor sort of a stronger CHF, then this pair can definitely give us a kick. Now, in terms of finding that re-entry that we spoke about, I'm not interested just now. We are in a consolidation. There's nowhere clear in my eyes that we can enter, but we do have these triple equal lows. I do think they're very, very viable target. I'm not very confident placing my stop loss here just now. Right, if anything, I'd rather let it play out, let it kick a bit more, have a nicer range that we're much more confident in, and then play in line with that. And then once and if we get in line, we have very, very big targets to work with and scale in with towards this major low, which I believe is all-time low on, USDCHF. USDJPY. Now, of course, why do we not look for an entry on this pair, or why have we not considered it as much? It's very clearly, we said this last week as well, a stronger pair than the other two. Now, being the stronger pair, what we're seeing is a bit of resistance. There's no structure breaks. It's very consolidated over here. And in regards to entry, there's nothing we're looking for. Very similar to what we just said for the CHF. We need to see a change in sentiment. We need to see the Bank of Japan sort of talk about rate cuts, or maybe their tariff policy. Something playing around to make us think, okay, you know what? The Japanese yen is going to be bullish here. And if the US dollar continues to be bearish, that's a perfect scenario for then this pair to have a kick on the chart. And if it gets that kick, then we can start talking about swing shorting or looking for other types of entries if it's viable. Right, but for the time being, there's nothing I really like the looks of on USDJPY. Gold, very consolidated. Moving to the premium of the consolidation. I saw some people talking about a top being in on gold. If a top is in, or rather, I don't think a top is in, but if you are going to place a top, I'd like to see, price run the highs, run these sort of equal highs. Now, I'd consider this as quadruple equal highs, and then lower prices. But if instead we kick lower from here, then there's a good chance this can be a large AMD, right? In terms of engaging with it, there's just nothing I'm interested in. It's very clearly a consolidation of the daily. Me, I don't intraday trade gold. I have tried to swing it before, not very often by any means, but if there's something that seems viable, like a good opportunity, but for the time being, it just doesn't look like that. Not what we want. S&P. Cool. So you guys can see on the weekly, we had this big order block. We wanted to reach this large fair value gap. Didn't happen. Instead, this weekly candle came, reversed all of that price action. Last week, then continued to expand. So what are the expectations for this week? Now, when we have this order block created, if we're talking about a retracement to occur this week, and we have to talk about where it's going to happen, I would say it would most likely be into this previous swing. Past that, there's a good chance we could sweep previous weekly low if price wants to, right? If price sweeps this and then heads higher. If price does not want to retrace yet, which may also be a viable scenario, is that we continue building this range. We don't get any major sweeps. And later on, once this range is, essentially built or bigger, then this order block here, bullish order block, may be used as support. Price may return to this, retrace to it, and then from there we could look for higher prices again. Those are two scenarios to consider. A possible push into this previous swing / previous weekly low. If that sweep doesn't occur, then we can accept that the range is still being built. And once we're a bit higher, maybe somewhere around here, then that retracement may be offered to us. Right? Either scenario, we're bullish. We remain bullish on the S&P. And Bitcoin. Starting the monthly, you guys can see we swept previous monthly high. Despite the body of the candle not being too big, it's actually a decent sized candle. We've covered a good bit of price action. It's a 15k range on Bitcoin from the low of the month to the high of the month, that is. On the weekly, what we can see is we had this sort of retracement, this accumulation, kick down, then move higher. And you guys can see right now we have a potential for a daily OTE. So the two things that I'm considering for Bitcoin is that we'll talk about the easy one first, right? This can very easily be a 4-hour market maker sell model, right? We've had a run in the previous monthly high and the all-time high. We've had very strong displacement down. We've got to reaccumulations. Now, where would this lead us if this is to play out? It's essentially this low. So is it viable for this low to get run, right? Does it mean the end of Bitcoin? Is this the top in? I don't think so, right? Even if price sort of nukes here and comes here, all we're doing is heading into a high time frame discount. The last obvious swing low on the weekly time frame, right, is essentially this one. We could say this one, but it didn't reach a discount. I mean, technically this one didn't either, but you guys can see some clear liquidity swept, some lows that were in the market for some time into the fair value gap and then higher. This one did hit fair value gap, but it was fairly, I would say quick. Now that means this could be engineered liquidity. It's been in the market for a little while. Price can come sweep this and head higher. So how do we play this scenario? Range within a range. You want to look at this daily range. It's already in the discount. You want to see how price moves here. If we sweep previous weekly low, which is very, very close to us in this discount, and then immediately push higher, then there may be a chance that we're pushing back for the highs, right? Alongside the S&P, continue pushing higher. If we push the lows, you don't necessarily have to short it. I wouldn't be confident shorting it here either. What we can do is let it come lower, let it come into that discount on the weekly, and then look to elongate if that opportunity is offered to us. That is how I would play Bitcoin for the time being. But yeah, guys, that is it for the weekly outlook. Hopefully this time when I press stop, all the audio's there. But yeah, as usual, any questions, anything I can help with, please just drop me a message.